welcome everybody. Rules, confirmations, and public elections. It is Tuesday, August 17th. I'm going to take the agenda out of order because we have so many people here for our confirmations, and it's, as Councilman Rosenberg says, it's COVID-y. So I'm going to go ahead and take this group first, so that I can let you be on your way. The first is for the Airport Authority, the appointment of Dr. Glenda Glover for a term expiring June 4th, 2025. Can I get a motion?
That's not, so we've got this saying that, and we got an email saying
I'm
it's
sorry,
2028.
Oh, 2028, yes, you're right.
And I guess my question is, do we have an attorney? Hannah. I don't know why I was looking for Jameson on this one. Is that noticed properly? Like, can we go ahead and vote? Can we vote her through tonight?
Yes, yeah, I think
Okay.
that's fine. It's just
and date doesn't matter.
Right. I was just saying, it's just, correcting that date.
Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Perfect. Dr. Glenda Glover, would you like to, there you are. I'm like, I don't know who is who. Thanks for coming tonight, and if you'll just give us a couple minutes on why you would like to serve on this particular authority and what skills and expertise you have that lend yourself to it.
Good evening. Thank you very much to the committee. I am Glenda Glover. I have a background in management, overall management. Currently, I serve as president of Tennessee State University. I am a lawyer and I'm a CPA. I have a lot of experience with airports. In fact, before I moved here in my prior city, I served as chair of the Airport Authority in Jackson, Mississippi.
Oh, wow.
And we did a great job.
If you do say so yourself.
I was chair during the time of 9/11, and we wanted Wharf to be the best airport. So.
Oh, wow.
We'll just get that in. So I'm just anxious to help serve the city, the area, and airport's my passion. Everybody have things they like to do. One of mine, tell people I don't drink, I don't smoke, I just do airports.
Thank you so much for coming. Does anybody have any questions?
I'll be quick. I'm excited to know that you have experience with this, given your background. I knew how much you've done with TSU. That's been fabulous. And so I was excited that you were appointed, and then next to hear that you have that experience too is even better. And super impressed that you have a law degree and CPA. Like, don't think many of us would tolerate through that. Hannah, do we need an amendment to change I'm sorry to really harp on this end date.
There was an updated letter that was received, so that's fine. The agenda in the full agenda has been,
So we don't need to amend
corrected.
this
I think
either.
this is just a typo on this current agenda that was printed out for you guys.
It wasn't a typo. This is the one
Well,
where the
right, it wasn't
census
corrected.
changed it. Yeah.
Right.
I
It
just wanted to
wasn't
make
corrected
sure
on
that
this agenda, so it was corrected in other places.
I just want to make sure that we got her on here for the full 7 years, and that she couldn't. she would have to actively escape us otherwise. I'd move for approval.
All right. Sorry, Councilor Sepulveda.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Glover, for being here and being willing to serve on the board. I think it's also important to note that last time we had people being appointed to the Airport Authority, Councilmember Hurt mentioned that we wanted more diversity, and so I'm glad the administration was able to do this today, so thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against? And any not voting? All right, thank you so much, Dr. Glover. The Hospital Authority appointment of Dr. Tamika Hudson to fill the unexpired term of Alexandria Fisher for a term expiring September 6, 2021, and to fill the subsequent term expiring September 6, 2026. Dr. Hudson, hi. Do you want to, or do you want to just stay right there? It's fine with me.
Whatever works for you all.
I'll just give you a couple of minutes. Thank you for coming to just to explain why you want to serve on this particular authority and what experience and expertise you have.
Absolutely. Thank you, first of all, for having me and asking me that question and listening to me. So, I'm a nurse practitioner by training, and I am the Assistant Dean for Student Affairs at the School of Nursing and Assistant Professor. And so I've built a career on social determinants of health. I actually had a career in pharmaceuticals years ago, went back to nursing school. because I felt passionate about lessening health disparities. And so in my current role, not only do I support students with non-academic needs, the primary component of that is community health. I also facilitate poverty simulations for all nursing students, faculty, and staff, as well as medical students, to sensitize them to, things that go on outside the exam room. What makes a patient present to the hospital in the first place. Not only that, I've, published articles and considered a content expert as it relates to social determinants of health, what I think are indicative of the patient population in which Nashville General services. So I think in that regard, I can lend my expertise. It's my passion. It's what I do. I would do it for free, and so I clearly am signing up to this to do it for free. So I'm passionate about it. I think it's my life's work, and I think I'd be a great asset to them.
Thank you so much. I was going to say, gosh, I don't know what you do in your free time except for that.
That same question.
I do need to get a quorum. Sorry, folks, we lost our quorum.
Ms. Hudson lives in my district, so I think she spends a lot of time on her yard.
Okay.
Larry's my neighbor. That's true.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Dr. Hudson, for being here today. Just had a question about what's your commitment to making sure that we have a fully funded Metro hospital?
My commitment? Absolutely. So thank you for asking that question. And so not only am I passionate about, understanding the evidence and helping support the hospital board as it relates to evidence-based practice medicine. How can we ensure that? But I'm also committed to ensure that we have resources available. We know that it takes funding for health equity. So we can say, health disparities, but in order to have health equity, not only do we need competent providers, we need money. And so I'm very passionate and committed to ensuring that the funding is there to support that. You're welcome.
God bless. Okay, thank you. And now we have a quorum. Thank you, Council Lady Evans. Let me mark that. Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Or Dr. Hudson? No. Okay, two very impressive people. Dr. Raymond Martin, you got your work cut out for you to come after these folks. But let me take a vote first for Dr. Tamika Hudson. All in favor? Aye. Any against? Any not voting? Thank you so much. All right, Dr. Raymond Martin for a term expiring June 28th, 2026. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and I'm going to follow Dr. Glover's lead so you can hear me.
Yes.
Well, the experience that I have that's relevant is having practiced in one of our local hospitals here for 35 years and working collaboratively with administration for the last 18 years as chief of surgery at St. Thomas West Hospital. So I've served on every possible committee, but most of my time the last 18 years spent on quality projects, safety, credentialing of physicians, discipline of physicians, running an operating room. I've also worked all this time in medical education, training residents from Vanderbilt and University of Tennessee, and some gynecology residents from Harry, and also working collaboratively with other hospital systems, mostly between St. Thomas and Vanderbilt, to try to be more collaborative than competitive, at least in some areas. As far as my interest in the position, I'm retired recently. I knew I wanted to get into public service eventually, and it's come a little quicker than I thought it might. But I would just love to be a part of making sure that all of our citizens have access to quality medical care, and that our taxpayer dollars are spent efficiently toward that goal.
Great. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? Council Lady Sepulveda.
Thank you, Dr. Martin, for being here today. Same question. What is your commitment to making sure that we have a fully funded Metro hospital?
I am very committed to that. I mean, I don't think that, reducing funding is really an option, and I want to see it work well and have whatever it needs to do that.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Any not voting? All right, thank you so much. We have two more late appointments. So the rules, first of all, I want to handle the rules suspension. Does anybody have any objection to the suspension of the rules for these late appointments to the Board of Equalization? Seeing none. All right, moving on to Ms. Glenda Chambers for a term expiring April 1st, 2022. Ms. Chambers, how are you today?
Fine.
Thank you for coming in. Just let us know why you would like to serve on this super busy board at this moment.
I'm not really sure why. I'm Glenda Chambers. My experience is in finance. I was the director of the National Association for State Retirement Administrators, and prior to that, the executive director of the State Retirement System for Louisiana. Moved here 10 years ago and I'm sorry, I'm hooked on this mask. But I served on the Board of Equalization for the 2017 reappraisal, and really not sure why I'm here, but I was asked to come back because I know it's really, it's an important function, but it's also out of control as far as the number of appeals that are coming in. And so they need all the help they can get. I have the experience, I have the commitment, I have the time. And I believe in a fair and equitable tax and fee system creates better government.
Great. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? Ms. Liddy?
I was just gonna say that I thought you looked familiar, and I'm just wondering what Vivian did to get you back in. Like, what does she
Between
promise
COVID
you?
and 2017, my hair turned from auburn.
Don't answer that question.
We might want to look at your tax record. No, I really appreciate you coming back, and I know that we drilled y'all, I think, before, and so I'd like to just move for approval.
Well, before you do that, Ms. Chambers, people aren't recognizing you because you've changed. You don't recognize me because my last name has changed, but we're LSU fans, so my name changed since I've seen you last. But
Right.
welcome and go
And
Tigers.
I saw your mother the other day.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you? You saw my mom here? That's right, because she's moved and you recognized her. That's amazing. So go Tigers, and all in favor?
No.
Yes.
That's right.
All Tigers, TSU Tigers, any Tiger, just go. All right, sorry, in seriousness, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? Thank you, Ms. Chambers. And Ms. Deb Dawson for a term expiring April 1st, 2022. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
What's your alma mater? Let's just get it out there.
Cleveland State Viking.
Okay, well, go Vikings. Thank you for
My
coming.
husband's and my daughter Vanderbilt.
There you go.
Commodore, so,
There
yeah.
you go. There you go.
Thank you. First, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. I am a realtor, been a realtor for over 30 years, and worked on several committees and sold many homes, member of Lifetime Award of Excellence. And just recently, I was a hearing officer, and we were quite busy, and I just loved it. It was good to see the people coming in and appealing their taxes, and you can just feel their passion. You know, most of them, they come in angry, but they understand, and they know why we need to do this. And when Vivian asked me to consider this, I said, sure. I mean, I just love it. I hope I can serve my councilman over there well, so I would love to be a member of your board.
Good. Any questions?
Just a quick comment.
Okay.
Since I was called out, I was going to point out that she's a District 31 resident, and I wholeheartedly endorse her, and we're lucky to have her.
Awesome.
I think our medical professionals might need to speak to both of them.
Yeah, I know.
But I'd move for approval.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Any not voting? Perfect. thank you all so much for coming in. You can go and be outside of the COVID-y small room if you if y'all would like. Thank y'all so much.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's go back to the beginning of our agenda. We have, I'm gonna take these all, if I put all this on a consent agenda, is anybody gonna pull anything off? Or do we just wanna take everything together? So we've got, I'll just go through it. Okay, so RS 2021-1109, Henderson and others recognizes the achievements of Nashvilleian and Olympian Alex Walsh.
Can you tell him to be quiet? Can you tell him to be quiet?
Yeah, just give it a minute. They're walking away, then I'll open it.
I'll start over. RS 2021-1109, Henderson and others recognizes the achievements of Nashvilleian and Olympian Alex Walsh. RS 2021-1110, Rosenberg and Mendez supports the Metro Nashville Board of Education's decision to increase the likelihood of schools remaining open by requiring the wearing of masks in school buildings and on school buses. RS 2021-1111 celebrates the 20th anniversary of the Frist Art Museum. Does anybody have anything they want to take off of consent? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against? Any not voting? Okay. All right, and then we have a late items, a couple of them. Council Lady Toombs accepts a shuttered venue operator's grant from the U.S. Small Business Administration to the Metro government acting by and through the municipal auditorium for emergency assistance for venues affected by COVID-19. I do have a letter to approve. Can I get a motion?
Motion. Second.
Does anybody have any questions or on the need for this to be late filed or the suspension of the rules? Any objection to that? Seeing none. Okay. The next late filed resolution is by Council Lady Stiles, urges the Metro Public Health Department Chief Medical Director to require masks be worn by all individuals in public indoor spaces. Council Lady Stiles, would you like to speak to why this is an emergency?
Yes, so if you've been watching the news, listening to the news, the cases of the Delta variant have been rising exponentially. And so I wanted to call on the health department to require masks indoors because asking the unvaccinated to go and get vaccinated has not been working. And so this way, we're all inconvenienced. We're all wearing a mask when we're indoors in recycled air, and it's a safety measure. It's not about politics. So that's why.
Okay, does anybody have any objection to the suspension of the rules?
Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't hear. Why is it late filed?
The new data that came out, so.
Does anybody have any objection to the suspension of the rules for this particular item? I see an objection. Okay,
Which one are we on?
this one,
The resolution.
there's, the resolution.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see ordinance. Sorry. Go,
Yeah.
carry on.
Okay. Late ordinance. Council Lady Stiles requires masks be worn by all individuals in public spaces as further described herein. I'm assuming it's the same reasoning for the, yes. So does anybody have any objection to that suspension of the rules? We do have an objection. Okay, thank you so much. Bills on second reading. Rule suspension needed for, wait, somebody explain this to me.
So I'm happy to explain. So Rule 17 requires signatures of abutting property owners for Baxter Street right-of-way, for any right-of-way abandonment. In this case, I believe that it's a handful of businesses.
So, Baxter Street between Hart and Home Road, off of Gallison Pike, has three property owners. And all three received notices, and the church and the folks who own the East Nashville Antiques, which if you haven't been, you should go, as well as the other adjoining properties are in agreement to this. Dollar Tree had no objection, but securing a signature from right person at Dollar Tree became very difficult. So, having been properly notified, we'd like to go ahead and close this road. It's been used only as an alley and a place to dump tires for quite some time.
So the rules suspension is to not require all the signatures, seeing that there was no objection.
Correct.
Right, okay, got it. So that's the only reason it's here, right?
Right.
Does
Because
anybody?
Rule 17 requires signatures.
Perfect. Does anybody have any objection to the suspension of the rules for this particular bill? All right, seeing none. Thank you. Okay, so proposed rules of procedure change.
Here, do y'all have this, friends?
Here's one, two, yeah. So this is just a lot of legal stuff that has to be written to change this, and so Hannah went ahead and drafted it, just so that it's done. I don't foresee us voting on this tonight, but I would like to have a discussion, because we either need to pull the trigger or not, because we're in the time frame of needing to assign committees and committee chairs and all that fun stuff. So we did have a special called meeting, and I appreciate everybody that showed up to that. What's that? Oh, I'm sorry. We did have a special called meeting that a few of us showed up to, and I appreciate that, and there was some really good conversation. I shared through Rosie the YouTube videos so that hopefully people watched it so we can avoid repetitive question and discussion, because we did have some really good discussion and kind of came to where we came based off of that. So does everybody have this in front of them? Basically, we would go from 14 committees to 8 committees. So a lot of things being combined. It's going to help with quorum issues, which we've had several of them tonight because we've got people all spread out. So that would be helpful. It also would help the council office as it relates to referring to committees and also the scheduling of the committee meetings. So it's going to reduce some duplication as well. But even if it didn't reduce duplication, it would help just with the flow of things, the logistics of things. And so there's a million ways to cut it, for sure. And there's lots of different conversation, and I'm sure that's going to happen. If we want to talk, so I'm open to talking about it here. I should have made copies of this. I did it last time. And anyway, so does anybody have any questions or comments or? Councilor Sepulveda, you're recognized.
Thank you. I apologize for not being able
That's
to
sure.
be here. I had scheduled a meeting 3-4 months before, so there was
Sure.
no getting out of that. I had several concerns, and I think I mentioned one of them before. It took a long time to be able to have affordable housing as its own committee. We have specific people that come, and we have a huge affordable housing issue in our county, and I think it would be a disservice to the community as a whole to try and lump it in. I also have concerns about, where are we gonna meet if these committees are gonna have several more council members? We only have one chambers, and right now we're going through COVID, so it's gonna be a little difficult for us to try and meet in one of these rooms. I also have a problem with the confirmations committee, that committee being made up of all of the chairs of each committee and the pro tem being the person in charge of that committee. I don't agree with that because it only gives one specific perspective. We all know that, and nothing against the vice mayor, but the vice mayor appoints all the chairs, and then we elect our pro tem, and it's just taking that out of rules. I don't understand it, and the other issue being, yes, we are having some quorum issues. It's COVID going on right now, and us having more council members is going to require us to have more council members present for these meetings. So Monday meetings, we're gonna have to have more people be able to show up. We're still gonna have the same type of issue. It's just gonna be more people that are required to be on this committee. So those are several concerns I have.
So as far as the scheduling or, meeting spaces, so we're already meeting on Mondays and Tuesdays. Confirmations, and I'm blending two of your concerns in together because they sort of relate to each other. So confirmations, our thought process behind that was that we've had so many confirmations that have been of interest to many, many council members, not just people that are in rules. And so separating that out and having it be at the same time, because that's when people are used to coming in, is at 5:30, 5:45, something like that, and they know where to come, and it's it's at right before the meeting so that they come in, they go to the committee meeting, the regular meeting starts, and we move on. And so to have this in chambers at the very end, so starting at 5:30 or 5:45, whenever it needs to, right before announcement period start, have the meeting in chambers so that more council members can be a part of it and open up the discussion, not only to who's on the council, on that particular committee, but just like people come in and want to speak, the chair usually recognizes people that aren't on the committee. But that way it would give everyone the ability to ask questions and have the candidate be able to answer questions, because you can't do it on the floor.
Confirmations is basically our executive committee. And the executive committee should already have quite a bit on their plate to try and figure out with the vice mayor on just running, these council meetings in general is the problem I have. Also, if our pro tem is going to be the chair of that committee, are you saying it would basically be the same time as this committee, because the pro tem then has to go to the chambers.
Right, so it
to
would just
do
bleed in.
announcements.
It would bleed in, because he or she would already be in the room.
So what's left for the rest of rules?
Rules goes into government ops, regulations, and utilities, because rules are regulations. So any suspension of the rules or any of that would go in government ops.
I don't think it's taking up too much time to do both of them at the same time.
And that's fine with me too.
While y'all are talking about the confirmations committee, I too, after our last meeting, put some more thought into this, and I'm of the kind of train of thought with Council Lady Sepulveda that I think that our GovOps is really heavy. I'm a little nervous that it's too heavy. And so I was thinking that rules and public elections maybe should be dropped down to the confirmations. And I too, I thought it sounded like a great idea, because we had talked about like how the chair of parks really should be in here when we're confirming a parks board member, for example. And I think that's great, but I agree with Council Lady Sepulveda that when given it more thought, I do think that when we are constantly trying to claw some power back to the council from our very strong mayor and from our vice mayor that's half and half on the power, right? I think that is too much there. And so I just wanted to echo that I when given it more thought, I thought it sounded like a great idea before, and then I would like to take that back.
Okay, so moving rules and public elections back to confirmations, and so still having the rules, confirmations, and public elections committee.
Yes, and then I also thought that another option to lighten the load on the GovOps committee might be to just pull utility and environment out and make it a water, stormwater, solid waste environment. That way, utility stuff, just to make, I'm just really nervous that while we are trying to shrink down, I don't want us to shrink wrap too much. And I'm a little nervous that given our other pairings that we may have paired too much into GovOps.
Okay, well, because we had it separated before with government ops and government regulations. Remember?
Somewhat. But so what I was thinking, so what I was thinking here is that we would pull out like an example of utilities and environment. And then to Council Lady Sepulveda's point, what I was thinking is like confirmation rules and public election, and strike the committee makeup there. The vice mayor appoints the committee anyway, but anybody can come in. And then also we need to strike the other rules, because we're not doing the subcommittees. And then I have a question that Dave might be able to run the math in his head on. The quorum issues, we've talked about this since we first got elected in 2015 and made the rule requiring quorums. Did we ever run the numbers on like if there's 40 of us, if we limited like everybody to 2 committees, does that solve any quorum issues, you think? I don't know why I expect you to be able to do this math.
Yeah, I mean, that's 80 committee assignments over 8, but the
Yeah, you
committees
spit
aren't all
out some
equal.
number before, so.
So
I mean, it depends on how big you're talking about.
I have
meetings
done
and
a
committees.
comparison of committees and committee overlap, and frankly, that's not the issue of for quorum purposes. It's
Okay.
people not showing up.
Okay, that's good
So
to know. Like not showing up at all.
we've tried to limit overlap as much as possible. We have an Excel spreadsheet that has everybody and try to limit, but that traditionally usually people are running around looking for people in other committees because those are the people that are here.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Dave, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. I don't want to repeat all my concerns from Thursday, but I have one specific concern that's kind of been battling around my head, and then a more general one. The Education Committee does not take up a lot of legislation, but that also means it's not causing a lot of conflicts. And Councilman Truffle showed up at just the right time. And the Education Committee is kind of a natural partner for schools when it comes to setting up joint meetings with the school board. I know that there are leadership roles available in the community for the chair of the Education Committee, or it seems like eliminating the education, that just kind of bugs me a little bit. More generally, we've talked a lot about the quorum issue and the problem with people showing up. My concern with cutting down the number of the meetings so much means that we're gonna have much longer meetings, which means that people who are sponsoring bills are gonna end up spending a lot of time waiting for their turn in those committees, which could end up exacerbating some of the scheduling issues, rather than having shorter meetings at defined times that allow people generally to know when they're gonna be up with the bill to present.
Okay, so for budget and finance, let's just go through each one of them. So for budget and finance, does anybody have a problem putting economic development, convention and tourism into budget and finance? Is that a problem?
Forgive me.
I don't think, not everybody has this sheet, so it's a little difficult, I think, if y'all are
Right.
looking up the rules.
Right. Yeah, good luck looking in the rules. So,
If you've got your phone, Rosie sent us this yesterday, if you wanna, that might make it easier to look at.
yeah. But I was just gonna go through each committee, and so maybe we go from 14 to 11 committees. We just need to figure it out, and I'm happy to do that, but I think that there's definitely some ways to make this a little bit easier. Even if it's just this much easier, let's try for that. So, budget and finance, does anybody have any objection to putting convention into, basically, because we don't have an economic development anyway. But so economic development, convention and tourism, do you have a problem? Anybody object to that?
So I feel like convention and tourism, to me, is entertainment. And so I also think about arts in that as well. So if we're talking about public facilities and culture, which I don't really love that name, but I feel like if the umbrellas should all be working together. So I don't think it should be in budget and finance.
I think convention and tourism is more the economic side of it. Typically, when we have less legislation that relates to that,
We've had legislation that's, approving certain events, and that's mainly what we had. I think we met
Correct.
twice. And, with our last chair, it was the same thing. But it's mainly events is what we've seen.
Entertainment events.
Yeah.
So is it events rather than like revenue?
Well, it's approving, so I think the last
Special event
couple of-
zones.
yes, and our participation in those. So again, I believe that umbrella of arts, all of that needs to fall under one.
okay, so moving convention and tourism down to public facilities and culture. Oh, hello.
Hello. Can I make a mention?
Yeah.
Particular special event zones, in practice, those also come to public works, so.
Or transportation now?
Yeah, and so, I don't purport to understand what comes through that committee, but if that's the predominance of it, sometimes I think some of these issues are particular to the referrals, right? We're wanting to make sure it touches every committee to which it's relevant, but, it might be that the ECD, that kind of stuff, makes sense that it goes to that committee, or that might be a committee, respectfully, among all these things we're trying to consolidate,
maybe that committee just gets kind of consumed by, like, it's not a subcommittee, it's just that stuff goes in there, and then the special event plans would just continue to go to Public Works. But
Angie,
again,
do y'all remember, I can't remember the flow chart they've sent us, because it's been revised once or twice about NDOT. Is NDOT still doing, or will NDOT be doing, whatever, however you want to phrase it, the special event zones?
Yes, as it stands right now, they still are involved in
They're
permits.
still doing that?
Yes.
Okay, well then maybe, if it is
Here it
special
is.
events, then maybe that does need a jump down.
Here's, well, right-of-way permits, and then, here, I just, yeah. Okay, so we'll try to figure out where the convention and tourism would need to go if we're gonna consolidate anything. So government ops and regulations and utilities, we're saying separate that out, and so what was your thought process? You said pull what out together?
Sorry, did we move on to
Yep.
number 2? What I was thinking is let's pull rules of public elections back down
Right.
to confirmation.
Yep.
And then I was thinking that, again, I'm just nervous that we've made it too heavy, and we could always consolidate it later. But pulling out kind of the utility portion of this and making it kind of like a utility and environment, being stormwater, water, solid waste, and environment. I think that might balance it out. I was trying to see which, so like if something came up about, like if first term we had One Touch Make Ready, I can't think of something we've done with kind of an NES related thing. But like something related with NES would go to that utility and environment one. I'm very nervous. While I
So-
think it makes sense, this makes sense what we're doing up here, I'm just super nervous we made it way too heavy.
I just feel like we're complicating this more than it probably.
Do we have to determine all of this today? Can we come back and make these decisions?
Well, we need to kind of figure it out, because we're supposed to have already assigned new committees starting September the 1st, which obviously that's not gonna happen because he's waiting. And so it's one of those things where, I mean, we've been talking.
He can appoint committees at any time.
He can, but he said he's not gonna be waiting forever. And so it's like, let's either, because we could talk about it, like I said in the meeting, we can talk about this in perpetuity, because you can go around in circles a million times, because there's lots of arguments to consolidate this and that, or this and that, or this and whatever. And so it's just, let's talk about it as much as we can, make the best decision that we can, or just say, scrap the whole thing and stay the way that we are, when that's obviously an option. I just, we had talked about changing the committee structure, so that's kind of why we're here.
Well, I think I think there's a middle ground to your point. One, to Councilmember Murphy's point, he can make those assignments at any point. I think we do need to have due diligence amongst ourselves. I feel pressure to try and rush through something right now. I would rather, even if we made some suggestions today, if we needed to, if we had to, call a meeting for us to come in and talk
We
about
had a
this
special
one
called
time.
meeting, and I'm happy to do that again, but yes, I would like to have
I'm proposing that.
Yes, 100%. I can have another special called meeting, and hopefully more than 7 people will show up. But my point is, we're not gonna vote on this tonight anyway. This was drawn up just so that we have something in our hands, and it's obviously gonna change, because we're gonna have more discussion with more people and all of that. I'm happy to do that. I just would like for something to come out of this committee versus
I
we
think
just argued the whole time.
I think it's also important to say that this
I don't think we're arguing.
committees are pretty stable, so they don't really change except for this one where you and Councilmember Pooley were added on. But we stay pretty stable, so there's time to try and flush this out as best as possible. And maybe not just offering it to rules, but you probably did send it to the rest of
The whole council,
body.
multiple
so,
times.
Yeah.
But certainly, I mean, my point was, if the concern is having a conversation with Rules Committee, if what we're doing right now is trying to flesh it out, if we need another time where Rules Committee comes together to make this tighter,
For sure.
to present to the larger body, then I propose that we do that and look at that before September. We still have a couple of weeks left.
Sure.
So let's try and figure out what that is.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm not convinced that the change would solve the quorum issue. There's certainly things here that I like, and we had great discussions at our called meeting. But do we want to talk about the quorum issue and maybe propose some ideas, like some things that we've been talking about earlier today about using the at-large members to potentially make up when there is a quorum issue. I had that today, and personnel without a
that
quorum,
idea.
but there were two different at-large members that were around, that if one could have been pulled in, then we could have had a quorum to move the legislation.
But that's just standing in. At that point, that's really not a quorum because that person is not in that committee typically. So they're not well-versed necessarily in what's been going on. So to me, that's just somebody standing in.
But a rule change could allow them to be, though.
Well, as the originator of the quorum rule, the fact that we could pass a budget with literally Courtney and I voting on it as the committee recommendation, as somebody to make a motion and somebody to second it, I think quorum is, our job is to be here and vote on things. We have lots of other parts of our job too, right?
And I agree with that, but it's a problem that when people
It is not a lot to ask for people to come to committee and vote on things. That is where we're supposed to do the bulk of the work. And yes, we all have things that pop up that we can't get to committees, but I think considering that is, it will allow people to.
I think it also requires the executive committee and the vice mayor to hold chairs more accountable to make sure that, and committees more accountable to make sure that people are showing up, to make sure that things are short and to the point, so we could get the agenda through and move on. So,
to hold each other accountable.
I think having the vice mayor and the executive committee talk about this would.
Because I think if somebody is chronically missing their committee assignments, then they either need to be removed from those committees, or there was a member who was frequently late or couldn't make a planning committee when it was kept being put at 3:30. So I worked with the council office to have it, to just say we cannot go before 4. Just in general, we should not be meeting before 4. But also I asked that council member, do you want to stay on? Is this something that we can work something out? That's how we should handle the quorum issue, rather than giving people an excuse or an out from doing their responsibility, which is what we're doing right here, is not arguing. We are collaborating, we are debating, we are thinking as a team and a group. And that's what we're elected to do.
I meant sort of.
Well, and I want to throw out too that I don't mean it
Yeah.
as an excuse or an out for members, because I see it as an issue. Obviously, in terms of attendance, we have a problem in that regard when it comes to committees, and so I just want to seek a solution. And I'm not sure that the new committee structure solves that, and nothing against it, because I like a lot of what I see. I'm just not sure that it solves that issue.
Yeah, no, if people don't show up, we're gonna have quorum issues. That's the solution, is show up to do the job that you were elected to do, that period. But I don't know what the punishment is. If you get taken off the committee, you're not showing up anyways.
If you take people off the committee, first of all, your quorum requirement just got lower, or you put somebody who is available.
Yeah.
And I don't know if publication of attendance records is something that would be helpful.
Is that a thing now? Do you know?
It could be
published, but it's
requested.
recorded.
It can be requested, yeah, because it's obviously publicly available, yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
But to Council Lady Murphy's point, I missed, and she knows because she serves on it, I missed Parks Committee a lot when I was chair of Public Works. I didn't want to do that. I was mindful of how that might look to the community that I would be shown to be absent. But I literally could not leave the Public Works Committee, and the way it was scheduled, and I asked the clerk several times, this keeps happening to me. So, there's not showing up because you don't care or whatever, but then there's also just I literally can't be there.
But
So
I asked to be taken off of Parks for that very reason, because I was having to carry as planning chair, carry bills in other committees. So I'm only on rules.
I think to Councilman Rosenberg's point of when you're consolidating more of these things under one umbrella, if you have legislation in another committee, it will complicate your ability to get to the committees on which you serve, or the secondary committee on which your bill is also referred to. And then I expressed it on Thursday and especially called, but I do have some concern. Like Councilman Rutherford, I appreciate some of the changes here. I think they're going to be good, but I worry a little bit about our oversight function. I think historically, oversight in the council body, I don't want us to ever go back to that place where we're just, that reputation of just rubber stamping and pushing the bills through committee. We are supposed to be having discussion. And then further, the kind of the power, so to speak, of the chair, right? Things that come up in committee relative to legislation, then later the chair can go to that department and say, could you report to this? Could you come to committee? What about this process? This is what we're hearing. And if you're just the chair of GovOps and you have all these other things underneath you, then that department's gonna be like, wait, who? I'm chair of the, so the subcommittees matter, and then that complicates things. So I'm a little concerned, just want to register that concern.
So I'm gonna go ahead, I don't know what to do with this, on the floor.
A doodle poll for like a date and time, and we could, like the rules committee could come back together to continue this in the next week or two.
I will get with Hannah on other, whatever else is going on, so we can figure out
Perfect.
for her, yep, and then I'll do that.
Chair, one thing I would remind you, what was handed out on Thursday is still on everybody's desk, and it might create confusion if it's not pulled up and replaced with the other good work you've done subsequent. So
No, what we finished with, it was already sent back out to you via Rosie, the new one that we sort of.
okay, but everything that's on everybody's desk reflects the meeting as of Thursday.
Oh, well, that needs to be pulled up, yeah.
Yeah.
Why was that still
I
there?
don't know, but I just thought it could create confusion.
Okay.
With your permission, I'll help you pull it.
Yeah, that would be great,
It
thanks.
got handed out and
The
nobody
school
collected
nursing
it.
for
Oh.
It's just
For
a-
the gotcha.
And
By
I
the
was
way,
like,
we're
I just
adjourned.
feel odd, I understand. So that's why I was like,
I was like,
You're
come on, and you're like, no, that wasn't Jim.